of wholeness.
That's right.
Can we talk for a minute about memories? Yesterday you mentioned memories and how a thought or seeing something, or I found that even a smell can trigger a memory. I think a lot of times people have real problems with the bad memories of something that has happened. Why don't you tell us what you know about that area?
Well, if you think that your brain is the size of your two fists, and it contains 100 trillion nerve cells, and all those nerve cells are like trees, and they're all growing branches through your entire life. You are growing branches on those trees. You have 3 million years worth of capacity or storage space in your brain, and that's what we can estimate. I'm sure it's more. So we have a huge storage space, and all those trees are intertwined because it's small and there's a lot, so they're all intertwined amongst each other. Now what happens is that as you form that thought, if it's a negative one, it gets those thorns like you've just described. If it's not dealt with, it will actually start to control the whole process of how you function. Now, you are aware of our brain performs 400 billion actions per second, as I said yesterday, of which we are conscious of 2,000. But you are who you are because of all the memories that are in your head from birth to death. So if you, through the process of renewing your mind, have dealt with issues, forgiven, repented, released, built a new memory, it's still there. The old one is still there, but you've built a new one over the old one. So that old one is still there. And if one opens a little doorway through, a little bit of, let me indulge myself in this bit of thinking, or as you say, that smell activates something. Now what happens there is that as soon as that happens, that memory will jump back into consciousness and you can start regrowing thorns. Now your 5 senses are the contact between the external world and the internal world of your mind. So everything comes through your 5 senses. Interestingly enough, the smell one's always an interesting one because it goes straight through to a little part of your brain called the amygdala, which is the size of an almond. You've got 2 little almond-sized little amygdalas, and they are like a library, simply like a library. A library contains books, books contain information. These are your libraries of all your perceptual associations with every memory that you've ever had from conception till where you are today. So even the issues you went through with your father, all of it's still there. And all that friend who gave you that, you smell her perfume and you can remember the lunch you had and the shoes she...
Well, let me share that example for our viewers because I was sharing that with you before we started the program.
Yes.
A lady about 20 years ago gave me a bottle of perfume. It was something called Cinnabar, which is... You can still purchase it today. And any time now that I smell that, I immediately think of that woman, and then I'll start thinking about the things we did together, the places we went for lunch. She bought me some shoes one time. I even think about a suit that she gave me that I wore a lot. And it's just, it's almost like that, just smelling that perfume. And all of a sudden, I'm like 50 thoughts deep. and I mean, that's a good thing because that was a pleasant experience.
Yes,
I enjoy thinking that. But then on the other hand, like if I see someone who maybe looks a little like my dad, or if I see someone that has a personality a lot like him, if I'm not very careful, which thank God I've learned to be now, I can start going down that same negative memory lane.
So you literally relive it, and you can feel the physically in your body. If you go on with that thought, you'll actually re-experience the entire event. Now what's happened there is that through the 5 senses, that smell, for example, or that visual input came through of seeing someone who looked like your dad or sounded like him. Or
something I couldn't control at all. It just happened to me.
That's it. Yeah. Now you have those healed memories.
Right.
But that activated the interesting smell's an interesting one. It goes straight into that little library of your brain. The others first go through the relay station in the brain, and then they get to that library. Everything goes via the library. So whatever memory you build, whatever information comes in first goes to the library to activate any emotional perception that you've formed with any event. So every memory you build from birth to death has an emotional component. In fact, you cannot build a thought, which is a memory. A thought is a memory, without the emotions involved. And the emotions are inside the chemicals. So emotions are contained within the chemicals, and the chemicals bond the memories. So they're completely intertwined. You cannot separate the two. So as you see, let's take the perfume. As you smell the perfume, the amygdala is activated. You go in the library, you pick out the book, there's the picture, there's all the memories. It's the perceptions, the good feelings. Then we'll go into your brain and activate and find that memory tree, and the whole event is activated. And then the chemicals flow from that tree through your body, and you re-experience. Now on the negative hand, on the negative side, it's the same thing. So the thought is healed, and whatever the sight of your father, whatever, someone who looks like him, comes back in, activates the toxic memory, but first via the library. And in that library is the book that now says, I've forgiven, I'm healed, But there's still some pages at the back. It's small now, but there's like a book inside a book.
You can find them if you want to.
You can find them. You know those Chinese puzzles?
Right.
It's in there somewhere. You can find
Right.
that book. It's there. And if you do dig deep enough and start opening it, and you actually then read that information in your mind and meditate on it, chemicals will immediately flow, and those chemicals will now be fear-based, and then those chemicals will then go back to that original memory that had got rid of all the thorns and grow some new thorns. And then you will re-experience that whole thing again. So the renewing of the mind is this process of checking for thorns, dethorning, making sure you keep the thorns off,